this is Dread, and in today's video topic, a lot of people have been asking me, hey Dread, what's the end game of Slormancer like? Well, this is what this video is going to do. So we're just going to go through all of the end game in Slormancer and talk about what its purpose is in the game. So first things off, you're going to be doing the campaign. So the campaign gets you all the way from level 1 to around level 40ish, and you can finish it after you do this act, the Royal Wing Act. Once you're done with this, you'll be around like level 36, and then you're good to go to start doing endgame. But if you feel a little underpowered at that point and you need a little bit of a leveling boost after the campaign, I would heavily suggest checking out Tempobotamus Bastion here. So the reason why we like Tempobotamus Bastion is the enemy spawn. So I'm going to click match my level. So it always goes to level 100 or whatever level that you're at, so that the enemies are on level, so they give you XP. So just to give you an idea here, we're going to go through. And the reason why Tempobotamus Bastion is really good is because we have 3 Chaos Waves here. So we can actually trigger all 3 at once here. And as long as your build has sufficient AoE, which you should be looking into to get, because like Slormancer is an AoE heavy game, so make sure your build actually has good AoE. This one's actually pretty decent at farming this because I can just stand in the middle and just like let everything walk into me. But essentially, this is a good way of grinding some materials and some farm, and you can effectively do this all the way to level 100 if you want after you're done with the campaign. This is what I would call the first endgame grind. I personally did not do this, but the reason why you want to get to level 100 as quickly as possible is because the gear on your character here, as you can see here, it drops based on your level. So like, for instance, this, like, like these uniques, they'll drop based on your level. So if you're in a level 76 zone or you're level 76, you'll drop level 76 items. So you really want to be pushing up your level as quickly as possible so you get access to the higher item level bases, because as you can see, the numbers on them scale pretty hard as you start doing that, right? And you start getting into end game like amounts of damage. So we're just gonna head home here, don't go to the next mission, and then you just simply repeat this over and over and over again. This is just really efficient. It's also really efficient to get a lot of enemies killed, specifically for stuff like Slorm Reapers and stuff like that. It's a good way of leveling them. And Tempobotamus Bastion has been one of the sole ways of leveling very quickly if you want to level with while also turning your brain off. Now, after you are done with this grind process, either you go to level 100 with Tempobotamus Bastion, or you just start doing the end game like I did, which is completely acceptable, by the way. You don't have to do Tempobotamus Bastion. It's like one of the more efficient ways of leveling. What you can do is you're going to be doing battlefields. So the reason why you're doing battlefields is not only can you get pure Slorm, you can also get battlefield bosses, which drop decent items as well, like for your what your level and stuff like that, and you get a decent amount of Slorm as well. Generally, when you get right out of the campaign, you're probably going to be able to do Wrath 3 or 4, but right now I'm doing a Wrath 9, Wrath 10. But the reason why you want to do it is for influence. Influence increases the amount of drops that you get in the end game based on like the nether and stuff like that, like the nether drops. You'll figure that out later. But then defeat, and you also have to defeat 15 battlefield bosses to get your next ancestral legacy stone. Your ancestral stones are very important for maxing out your build because there's a lot of very strong things to do in the ancestral legacy tree. So make sure you finish these Adam Noster's trials, right? So that's the battlefield. I can show you what it looks like. This is a battlefield. So essentially you just walk through, just do stuff. It's very much like your turn off brain mapping kind of thing. It's very efficient at just having something to do when you want to turn your brain off and just farm content instead of having to like think about things, which you have to do for the other league mechanics and stuff like that. Remember, you want to be filling up your pure Slorm bar as well. Later on, you actually want to be keeping your Slorm because apparently like it is like very important later on, mainly for re-rolling legendaries and stuff like that in the nether farm. So you can convert your Slorm into pure Slorm, the purple stuff, which I'll show you in a bit. But essentially that is like important to have, is like a good amount of Slorm intake, because every single time you do a boss in the Netherrealm, you're going to be spending like up to 300,000 Slorm every single time that you want to reroll your uniques that you get from the boss, so you get maximum chance for good uniques and stuff like that. So definitely important to keep your Slorm up. So you'll either have to farm it here, or you'll have to farm it in Temple Monish Bastion, or you'll have to farm it in the Forge, which we'll talk about in a second here. But this is the battlefield. Pretty much just it's just your normal endgame content. After doing like 2 to 3 battlefields in a row, you'll get access to a battlefield boss, which is just like a small mini boss, right? Now, a good point, by the way, when you're doing your battlefield stuff, you can leave the battlefield early once you get to uh 5 of these before the launch. So like for instance, as long as you're 5 before the end, you can actually open a portal early, so you never have to do all of the portals if you want to, because the battlefield bosses are based on the floor that you complete, not on the amount of breaches that you finish. So if we just head home here, right, uh then of course after that you'll get a decent amount of gold after like farming it for a bit. And the longer you go, the bigger that's going to get, because not only does it drop more, but it also just like it's a lot more. It's like a lot more. So that is the battlefield. This is like the first thing you'll be farming for a bit. Now, once you get enough pure Slorm and stuff like that, you can do the Slorm Temple. Now, the Slorm Temple is a delve like mechanic here. So you just walk through and you'll have traps that you have to avoid. Now, these traps actually do a decent amount of damage. Right now, I'm at floor 259, and I can almost die because of the trap. So this stuff here, this pure Slorm, this is like what you really want. The white Slorm allows you to upgrade a lot of stuff, which I'll show you in a second. And it will also allow you to craft nether gear, which we'll talk about in a bit, like probably in a different video. So we're gonna finish this temple here. Then we're going to talk about the benefits of the temple so that you can understand why you should be doing your temple. It's got to finish it. You definitely want a build that can like clear the whole wave very quickly, and you want movement speed when you're doing the temple. Very important to have movement speed when you're doing the temple, because it is movement speed based, right? Because you want to go as fast as possible, because the longer you take, the more traps will show up and stuff like that, so the harder the content will get. So you definitely want to be zooming as quickly as possible. So when you get to the end, you'll get some pure Slorm, or you get an ultimatum every 10 waves all the way up to 150. The ultimatums are items that can set your stats to a specific stat. A lot of them are insanely strong. Like the ultimatums are just absurdly strong. Like all of them, like they can just be crazy. Like there's one that like sets your critical strike chance. There's one that sets your additional projectiles, sets your additional area size. There's a lot of them that are insane right now. I'm just using the essential critical strike one, but this is like one of the main reasons to do this Slorm Temple is to upgrade your ultimatums. Another thing, right, that you want to do is you want to increase your pure stat chance and your pure stat score. This is very expensive to do, but it's very important. So pure stats on gear are effectively like exalteds from PoE. I mean, from last epoch. They give you better stats than the normal stats, and you're going to want as many of these as possible in the end game, especially for the triple one. So as you can see, there's like one exclamation mark there. You can actually find them with triple exclamation mark once you have enough of this extra pure stat max score, and that will end up being very strong stats overall, like very, very, very strong stats. Okay, so you definitely want to max this out. This is the whole reason why you're doing the Slorm Temple, in my opinion, right? Then as well, pure stat chance. This will increase the chance that you drop them, right? So these are the two reasons to be doing the Slorm Temple. You can also transform Slorm into Elder Slorm and stuff like that later on, so that you can get more Elder Slorm, so you can spam more, right? And you can actually affect the transform price here, and then you can also make the temple like less scary. But after a while, once you finish out these stats and you finish out your ultimatum and all that, and like eventually if you want to buy the Reaper, which is a pretty good Reaper by the way, one good tip, if you do actually equip the Reaper and use it, you can actually get a lot of Elder Slorm find, like, and it'll help you like zoom through the zone pretty much. It's like great. Like it'll help you get to your max Slorm very quickly. But yeah, that's pretty much why the temple is important is for getting those stats up specifically. They're very important. Oh, I'm so dumb. I started the next temple here, but it's fine. But I'm pretty much done with my temple grind for the most part. Now, the next piece of endgame that we're going to be talking about is the Great Forge. So the Great Forge, I'm just going to go on like a lower one. So the Great Forge here, this is very, very important for a few different things. So I'm just going to show you how it goes first. So we're going to start it. We're going to like open 4 gates, okay? And then enemies will come in and will kill the enemies. They'll come in through multiple doors. You can pay more Slorm to make the enemies come in faster, so you can do waves faster. But as you can see, as the waves come in, right, once you finish most of a wave, you can start the next wave. Now you'll be given a few set of choices. So here you can get Reaper Spirits, which we'll talk about in a second. You can get a quantity of like something for your chest, and you get a quality of something for your chest. And it'll also come with negative modifiers here for a decent amount of turns. It's based on the cataclysms, right? And they stay for a few turns, right? Now, as you kill things, you'll get base amounts of things inside of your chest. So here right now, our war chest here has 6 pieces of equipment, 3 Slorm lines, 3 Slormites, and it has some gold and some Slorm. Now, because of this, and with the modifiers that we're grabbing here, like a good example here, 90% gold is quantity, right? So right now, I have, like, I think, like, let's see here. I have 502 gold. If I press this, and then do this and do this wave, I'll be at 1,000 gold. And these can ramp very quickly. You can do a maximum of 100 waves in the forge, and it allows you to build up a super giga chest. Now, if you die in the forge, you still get what's inside the chest, but you do not get these modifiers, like all the special modifiers like that these waves are adding. So like this Slormine quality, you'd lose this if you died, right? So definitely don't want to be dying in the forge. If you go like to a higher wrath and you're dying constantly, go to a lower wrath and farm the forge down below. It's way better to have a consistent forge than it is to have a forge where you keep dying and stuff like that, right? So we're just gonna like, and the last part, so you can get a lot of good gear, like a lot of good Slormites and stuff like that. The forge is really good for crafting materials in general, but the main thing that you want is your Reaper Spirits. So your Reaper Spirits here are very important. I'll explain in a moment here. So we're going to end this wave. Okay, I'm going to open this chest. It's going to have shit in it, like nothing in it, right? Because like we stopped at wave 4 and it was like a Wrath 6, so like not too much. But if we go to Corey Ironbender, you'll see why Reaper Smiths are important. So the first thing that you can do is you can actually upgrade the affinity of your Reapers. So if you read your Reaper here, it's by Bagarth, right? Bagarth Affinity will give it a few modifiers. So it'll give it more Reaper damage, effect multipliers. So the effect on it, it'll get multiplied by these levels. It'll get Reaper experience gain, so it gets to level 100 quicker. And then it'll have a reduced primordial cap here. So this reduced primordial cap means that this would go to primordial at level 80, like I think 78. I think, yeah, at level 78, this would go primordial because normally Reapers go primordial at level 100. So it makes it so that when you're grinding for a new character, it means you can quickly get to that point. But getting a good chunk of this Reaper Smith affinity out leads to a much better Reaper overall for you. Eventually you want to like grind these out, and there's one for each like kind, right? So check out what kind of thing your item is using. Then the next thing here is you can do runes. So these runes are very important. There's some very strong ones. Like there's some that like give you crit chance, ancestral strike chance, and stuff like that, right? And these uptimes are based on the other runes. So like for instance, after you've killed 70 enemies, you trigger my effect rune, which is not that many enemies to kill. And then we get Rune of Alpha and Omega, and those are those 2 balls that are standing around me, right? And then we also have an enhancement rune, and we're reducing the constraint so that we get to, the activation rune quicker, right? Like the effect rune and activation rune. Like pretty much you'll understand as you play along with this. But essentially, this is why we're farming the forge, is for these Reaper Smiths, which can then turn into these Reapers and stuff like that. And you can also use these Reaper Smiths to forge Slorm Reapers for other classes. Let's say I have a Reaper, like let's say I have this wicked snare, and I want to put it on my huntress. Well, I don't have the huntress wicked snare bow, but I can go to Corey and I can be like, I want to craft a forge reaper, right? Yeah, navigate through your thing and just choose one you want to forge, and then you can put it in there, and then you can forge it, right? Cool. It makes it so that you don't have to regrind your Slorm Reapers every single time. You will have to level them up and get them into Primordial, but you won't have to go and find them, which is the most important part. But yeah, that is the end game grind. Forge is really good. The forge is a really good way of farming a bunch of materials. If you can do high wrath forges very consistently, you can end up with some insane multipliers in there. Like for instance, earlier I was doing a Wrath 5 forge and I ended up with 13 million gold after one run because of the way that the modifiers stack. The forge allows you to stack modifiers in a way that like you can end up with a very large amount of specific materials that you want. Like let's say you want a lot of gold. You can farm the forge to get a lot of gold very quickly if you know what you're doing and you know how to manipulate the forge. So the forge is very good. The only problem with the forge is it is like it's very spoopy, it's very scary. The forge also can lag sometimes, so be ready. The forge is very scary, but this is like one of the endgame grinds. Then the last endgame grind is the Netherworld. So if you're familiar with unique maps in Path of Exile, that is effectively what these are, or unique woven echoes. So these have specific cataclysms that are always on it. So here, non-elite enemies and elite enemies regen. It has tenacity for enemies, and it has enemies restored to life after 1 second if not being damaged. Now, the thing about these, though, they started a specific wrath, and they have this amount of like nether realms, like the cataclysms, and each one of the breaches inside of here have a like a freaking cataclysm, so you can stack cataclysms very quickly, and it makes this very scary content. Now this content does not drop that much Slorm, this content does not drop that much gold, and this content does not drop that much crafting materials. That is not what this is about, this endgame farm. What it is about is either getting nether gear, which is the gear that is above just legendary gear. It essentially allows you to pretty much craft your own perfect gear after farming for a lot, right? Allows you to put affixes from one set of gear to another set of gear and replace affixes and stuff like that. You can use this to stack a lot of pure modifiers on your gear, and also it allows you to double legendaries and stuff like that, and triple legendaries. So like for instance, if there was a build that you wanted to do but it requires 2 legendary helm affixes and you can only have 1 legendary helm affix on a helmet, right? Well, you can go and take that legendary helm affix and slap it on a pair of boots or something with another crafting. So as you can tell, it's very important. So we're going to finish this. I'm going to show you the boss. But this is very important for the endgame grind because this is how you end up with good gear. Like this is like the last grind. Now, all of the other grinds feed into this grind because you need gold to craft, okay, your nether gear. You need this Slorm to reroll the uniques at the end. So you need to do other content instead of this. And you need pure Slorm to craft on that nether gear. So you either need to do the temple, or like you need to do the temple eventually, right? Because you need some pure Slorm. So you need all 3 sources of endgame to be able to push this endgame, which is like the premier endgame of the end of the game, right? And then apparently, I haven't gotten to this point, but there is primordial nether, which is the nether realm, but bigger and strong. Like they're way more scary and stuff like that, but with better drops. So it's very important to have all of these materials before you start crafting nether stuff, because like the nether stuff is going to be very expensive when you craft it and stuff like that, and you'll need like all your legendary slormites, you'll need your epic slormites, you'll need all that stuff to craft your nether gear later, because you're essentially crafting it from scratch once you get the nether affixes up and stuff like that, right? So it is important to craft all these materials, and it's part of the end game grind. Like the grinds actually kind of like work well together, and I appreciate that a lot as an ARPG player. So here's the boss. Now, one thing about these Netherrealm bosses is they get less damage taken based on each enemy, right? So it takes decreased damage based on its missing life, and it also takes less damage based on how many enemies are nearby. So you want a build that can clear the enemies very quickly, and you want a build that can do plenty of damage to him. Now the problem is he has a mod right now that makes him like regen his entire life if I haven't damaged him recently. And unfortunately, because of the way that he works, he's summoning enemies, and like whenever he summons enemies, right, he goes immune for a second and can like actually regen to full in that second. So I have to be like I have to essentially like shoot him down. Like, just give me a moment here. Oh, I forgot. I should probably there you go. I forgot. I actually have more single target than that. I have like way more single target than that. But here is the chest here. Now, this is where you can get chances for Netherrealm gear here. So either you can have a unique with like, like pure stat on it, pure stat, or you can re-roll it using Slorm, like that, for instance. That is pretty cool. I don't know what you'd use that on, right? These are only double pure, but like that's like fine. And you're trying to find, of course, nether gear. So like this is tier like 3 pure area damage reduction, but it also gives you a way of target farming uniques. It's like, oh, those uniques looked interesting, right? Can I target farm them? Yes, you can. You can target farm uniques using the netherworld. So if you click on this, you have a boss here. It has a chance to drop Boots of Unyielding, Ironclad Retaliation, Cloak of the Lightning Zealot, Tear of Ara, and etc. Stuff like that. Like all of these uniques. Now, what's important is when you do one of these normal things to unlock your nether boss, right? Like one of these like missions, it will re-roll all of the uniques on all of the bosses. So if I do like a normal one, this boss will have a different set of uniques that it can offer. And all of the bosses share this. So as you do normal ones, you can re-roll what bosses have, and you can target farm uniques that way. So if you need a specific unique with this or that, you can do that, right? And you can also target farm specific nether chance on like chests and like on like specific at like items, right? So that's important. So as you go around in the nether realm, you can farm more nether gear and stuff like that, and eventually you can get nether gear. Now nether gear, of course, is the last part of the end game grind, where you end up with very strong items eventually. Here I can craft on 3 different affixes onto this item, and then of course like craft the rest of the item as well. I can put 3 pure stats on it. I'm probably going to roll away that max mana, unfortunately. But yeah, like that's the part of the endgame grind, and that's pretty much the endgame grind for Slormancer. There is a boss here called Abinostris. You do have to do him to finish and get your last ancestral stone here, the one that like moves to like wherever. You can like put this ancestral stone anywhere. It's very important for your end game scaling because there's a lot of strong stuff you can get. So you can finish that boss. And the last boss, there's the Slormancer, which unlocks after you get done with your warlord grind, which I'm still doing, right? But yeah, that's gonna be it for me today. That's gonna be it for explaining the end game grind. Well,